Hey Poptropicans, Captain Crawfish here. Today I'm going to help you play through a stone-cold classic, Poptropica Island, which is also one of our featured Islands of the Month for March. I'm talking about Super Power Island, and if you play through it this month, you will earn bonus credits. And right now I'm going to show you how to do it, so let's get started. Upon arriving on the island, I am of course desperate to know what's behind the police tape. However, this police officer here is not going to let me pass unless I have some kind of a credential to get by, which is reasonable. So I'm going to head over here to the comic shop. This shop is the domain of our good friend Ned Noodlehead. He is the proprietor of the shop, and in talking to him, he will give us this handbook about how to be a superhero. There it is. Let's open it up and take a look, see what there is to find. There's obviously a few rules to being a good superhero. Ned, I don't know why he knows them, but he does. We need a superhero ID card. That would certainly help. We need an outfit. We need superpowers. We need to do all these things. So the most important thing is a superhero ID card would certainly help us get past that rude policeman who won't let us check out the scene of the prison break. What a jerk. We can get that by heading back to Main Street here. To the right of the comic shop is a masks and cape shop. In here are plenty of costumes for us to choose from. First thing we'll do is talk to this guy over here and find that he's just handing out superhero ID cards. They just give them to anybody these days, but that's good because we're anybody and we want to be a superhero. However, we also need a costume. Here you can take your pick of any of these costumes or mix and match. I'm going to go, obviously, for what is clearly the best one in a copyright infringement-free world. You know what I'm talking about. This is clearly the best superhero costume. But again, you can make anything you want with any mix of the masks and capes and whatever you call the things that you would wear in a superhero costume that aren't masks or capes. The unimportant stuff. Anyway, don't even have to show him the card. Now I can walk right by. We'll talk to the guy with the gray mustache here, and he'll tell us about the escaped prisoners, who have all gotten superpowers because of this radioactive meteorite, asteroid. I know there's a definition for what it's called when it hits the planet, but I don't know offhand. Let's take a look at the Supervillain files. Open it up and you can scroll through Cerebral, Crusher, Copycat, Ratman, Betty Jetty, and the last one is Speeding Spike. They all have different powers, they're all located in different scenes, and we'll have to catch them one by one. But you can't catch a supervillain without some kind of actual magical superpowery thing. This is called the anti-power handcuffs. With these, if we defeat a villain, we can then arrest them and bring them back to jail. If you don't have the anti-power handcuffs, you won't be able to bring them back to jail. Here's our good friend Hazmat Hermit. Your Poptropica trivia for where did he first appear? It was right there. Keep heading right until you get to the bank with the bank manager weeping and wailing outside. You can take on the supervillains in any order. I'm going to go as I come across them, but you could go all the way to the right and do them in reverse order. Doesn't matter. Here is Copycat in the bank. When I go to talk to her, the first thing she'll do is split herself off into a whole bunch of copies and then throw a smoke grenade. So we need to find and touch all of the copies before the room gets completely filled with smoke. So you do want to do it in the order I'm doing it, basically. The one real tip is call the elevator, then go get the rest of the copycats from this room, because otherwise you're standing there waiting for the elevator while the room is filling with smoke. So if you call the elevator early, this becomes very easy. If you don't, it is very difficult. Otherwise, you see here, I'm just sort of running left and jumping. It's really not too hard other than that. And after capturing Copycat, we're going to warp directly back to the jail. There she is back in her cell. And now we're going to head after the next one, and we'll just go to the right till we find a supervillain. We'll keep heading now past the bank and past the pretzel guy. He's out of pretzels. What a terrible day to be out of pretzels. Keep heading by. We'll talk to this guy. He says that Betty Jetty is up above this building. Remember that for later. She's the one villain that you can't get to right away. Instead, we'll head down into the subway. Down the bottom of the stairs. There's that cockroach on the wall again. You remember that from the motel and reality TV, and yes. Alright, enough of that. There are real villains to go after, not just cockroaches. This guy is not blocking the train, but he's warning me. This is a very unusual door in Poptropica. You click on the subway door from the side there. Spike is down the other end of the train, and right in front of me is this slippery when wet. You see, it'll knock me or hopefully speeding Spike over. So what you want to do here is get close enough to Spike that he will start chasing you, but far enough that you can stay in front of him. And you want to just sort of lead him along. You see he runs for just a short amount. And you can kind of get, you see I've got the rhythm, but as soon as I lose the rhythm, he starts going back, so you need to catch up with him before he heads all the way back to where he started. Oh, don't slip yourself. You see he kind of heads back, and, you know, I've sort of lost it. When I started, I was tugging him along, you know, I was like the spider, and he was the fly caught in my web, and now I'm just sort of glumping around like a doofus. Got him. There we go. So he falls down, and even though he knocked me over there, that's okay. I've got the anti-power handcuffs. There we go. Speeding Spike has been brought to justice, and once again, we warp all the way back to the jail. Now we'll head past where we saw Copycat, past where we saw Speeding Spike, and go into a new scene to the right of that street scene, and it will be a park. Here is Cerebral, who is telekinetic. He moves rocks with his mind. This is a two-phase battle. The first thing he does is pick up this small rock and try to hit me with it. And when I dodge it, you see it kind of circles around me. The goal here is to get him to aim the rock at you, then dodge so that it hits him instead. You really just need to jump when it starts moving, and then it'll hit him. Now the next part, you see he's bringing these big chunks of the ground up. So you want to push this big boulder to about here. I think I'm going to miss. Yeah, that's a little bit too far. Yeah, well. So this is a little bit tough, especially when the big rock ends up there. But I'm going to show you. I really wanted to show you how not to do it. I thought that was important. And now I'm going to show you how to do it. Once the rock is back on the ground, you really just want to push it over to the edge of the pedestal, right about there. And this will work. Right up into him. And that is the end of Cerebral. Half the supervillains are down. Cerebral is going to go back to prison. We will once again warp back there and get our obligatory quip from the older cop there who has seen it all. And once again head off to find the next supervillain. So the next one is also in the park. Head over to these bathrooms. You can go into one of them. And when you do, there will be an open sewer cover that'll take you down below. Before you can get to Ratman himself, you have to solve a bit of a puzzle here involving the water level in these floating platforms. This room is full of these valves that you can turn. And the way the puzzle is supposed to work is that you bring the water level down and then you bring it back up so you can get around this wall. But I just fell through the wall, and I kind of figured that's the best way to do it. You should try to do it that way too. If not, you're on your own. Here's Ratman. He himself is not really a threat. The challenge here is these rats moving around, as well as some swarms of flies that will start chasing me around and make life truly miserable. In the meantime, just avoid these rats until you can get to this valve. And once you turn this, it knocks him out and sends the flies after you. So he's just sitting there, but the problem is that these flies will follow you around and bother you. And now that I failed to go right to him, they're going to make things incredibly challenging for me. They move quickly, and they can move directly to me, whereas I am limited by what platforms I can land on. So I could have made it directly to him if I had been thinking a little more clearly on my feet. At least the rats aren't really a problem anymore. But you see the trouble I'm having. I can't quite get up there. I'm going to try to make a run for it here, and that's, again, not going to work. You know, with the magic of video editing, I really could make myself look great at Poptropica. You'd think I would be. But I like to be honest with you guys. I like you to know that even the Poptropica creators ourselves aren't necessarily that good at this game. But alright, there he is. With our anti-power handcuffs, we've got Ratman caged. And once again, here we go, back to the prison. So we've got one more villain that we can fight now before we get to the last one. So again, the first 5 villains you can do in any order, but you have to capture all 5 of them before you can beat the 6th one and thus finish the island. So this one is Crusher. He's hanging out in the junkyard. He's also a 2-stage enemy, as Cerebral was. In this first part, you see the screen shaking kind of every couple of seconds. That is Crusher stomping. And if I'm standing on something when he does that, I'll fall to the ground and have to go back up. So just get the timing down, just jump so that you're in the air every time he stomps. Climb up here and pull this lever to drop a refrigerator on him. Now if he weren't a supervillain, that would probably be enough, but it just kind of makes him mad. He throws the fridge at me and I end up down at the bottom of the screen again. This time, he's going to start throwing things, and it sort of works the same way. He throws in a rhythm, and once you get the rhythm down, you can sort of... obviously that is not an example of having the rhythm down. Once you have the rhythm down, you can just sort of make sure you're jumping in such a way that you're in the air when he aims at you, so you fall out of the way, and then head right back up here and do the opposite of what you did before. Once you turn the magnet on, he'll get crushed again on that piece of metal. Flattened. That's hilarious. And that's all you have to do. Go down and click on him to put him in the anti-power handcuffs. And that is all 5 of the land-bound supervillains. Once we go back to the prison now, we're going to head for our end game. So up until now, we have been playing without actual superpowers. The closest we've come is having those anti-power handcuffs. But after capturing the first 5 supervillains, you find this phone booth is ringing, and for whatever reason, answering the phone grants you an amazing new power, the power of flight. It's on automatically. You see that icon in the lower left is highlighted with yellow. So if you want to turn the flight power off, click on that icon. Otherwise, instead of jumping, you can now fly and talk to this old superhero who imparts some important superhero wisdom. You remember the building before where this cop told us that Betty Jetty was up high. Well, now you can fly right up. There are people hanging out on their balconies for some reason, and exit the scene to the top. Once you do, you'll encounter Betty Jetty. She takes off, and we'll just fly right after her, and this leads to somewhat of a challenging chase scene. Betty will start kind of making circles around you and shoot these energy orbs at you. She has a couple different attacks. You see there, she shot 4 of them, and then 3 of them grouped up, and 1 went off the other way, so it left a gap that I could go through, or I could go around them. What you notice with this battle is every time you turn and start moving in a different direction, your character will go a little bit closer to Betty, but every time you get hit, you'll get knocked a little further back. If you get hit too many times without advancing, you will lose the fight and have to restart. But you can get hit several times before this happens. So again, you see the single orb circling around me, you see the 4 that shoot 1 at a time, and then the groups of them as you've seen before. But as I avoided just a few of them, all you need to do is make contact with her, and once you do, there you go. Landed back on terra firma, but oh, Ned Noodlehead swooping in at the last moment to take the credit. I guess he did give us that superhero handbook, so maybe it's only fair that... It's not fair at all, who am I kidding? Betty Jetty is the last of the 6 supervillains, and Ned Noodlehead is getting all the credit for bringing them to justice. I mean, at least the city is safe, all thanks to Ned Noodlehead. Come on. I mean, I wouldn't really care about the credit, but as you can see, they gave the island medallion to Ned, and that's what I'm here at. I'm after that medallion, those sweet bonus credits. It's Island of the Month time. So go into the comic shop and talk to Ned Noodlehead, see what he has to say. This underpants on outside of his pants. He appears to be shameless, but we may have a way in. He'd trade it all for a good hot dog. Do you remember where there was a hot dog? Back in the park. Hot dog vendor. Good thing Ned didn't want a pretzel. For some reason, don't have to pay for anything in this town. They're just giving the hot dogs away. I'll take it. Go on back to the comic book shop and talk to Ned again. Have basically the same conversation. I knew all this, Ned. Trying to give you a hot dog. Let me be your friend. And then gimme, gimme, gimme. Alright. Fortunately, I just need to say, here's the hot dog. I don't have to trade. I don't know what would happen if I didn't give him the hot dog. I'd be trapped in Super Power Island purgatory forever. However, giving Ned the hot dog, there it is. Island medallion. And that's the end of Super Power Island. That's how to beat it and get your bonus credits in the month of March only. So head on over to Poptropica.com. You can play Super Power Island for free. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, thank you for playing Poptropica.